There is something you probably do every single day without a second thought. It doesn't involve food. It doesn't involve smoking. It has nothing to do with alcohol or medication. In fact, a lot of people over 60 do more of it as they get older because they've been told their bodies need rest. And yet, researchers now have direct, measurable biological evidence that this single daily habit is accelerating cellular aging faster than almost any other behavior they've studied. We're talking about changes that show up not in how you feel, but in the actual structure of your DNA. If you're sitting down right now, and there's a good chance you are, keep watching. What the science shows about this habit and what it's doing inside your cells is something your doctor has almost certainly never explained to you. And the fix, once you understand it, is simpler than anything you'd expect. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and every week on this channel, I break down the latest evidence-based research on aging, designed specifically for adults over 60. If that's something that matters to you, please subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Now, let's get into science. The daily mistake accelerating your cellular aging is prolonged, uninterrupted sitting. I know what you might be thinking. You've probably heard "sitting is the new smoking" and dismissed it as a dramatic headline. But that phrase actually refers to something quite specific happening at the DNA level. And when you see the research, it stops sounding like an exaggeration. Here is what's actually happening inside your body. At the very end of every chromosome in every one of your cells, there are tiny protective structures called telomeres. Picture the plastic tip on a shoelace, the part that keeps the lace from fraying. Telomeres do exactly that job for your DNA. Every time one of your cells divides to renew itself, those protective tips get a little shorter. When they wear down too far, the cell enters what scientists call senescence. It can no longer divide properly or repair damage. And here's the piece most people don't know about. Senescent cells don't just quietly disappear. They stay lodged in your tissues, releasing a steady stream of inflammatory chemicals that interfere with healthy cells around them. Researchers have begun calling them zombie cells because they refuse to die and they cause damage wherever they remain. The accumulation of these cells is now understood to be one of the primary drivers of accelerated aging, and several hallmarks of age-related disease connect directly back to them. Now here is where prolonged sitting enters the picture, and why the research findings genuinely shocked the scientists who produced them. A landmark study from the University of California, San Diego, published in the American Journal of Epidemiology, analyzed nearly 1,500 women between the ages of 64 and 95, all part of the long-running Women's Health Initiative. The researchers measured telomere length directly from blood samples and compared it to how much time these women actually spent sitting, not by asking them, but by having them wear accelerometers that tracked real movement objectively. The results were striking. Women who sat more than 10 hours daily while also getting fewer than 40 minutes of moderate physical activity had telomeres that were measurably shorter, corresponding to roughly 8 additional years of biological aging. Not months, 8 full years of extracellular wear from sitting. Comment below right now and tell me, on a typical day, roughly how many hours do you spend sitting? I genuinely want to understand what we're working with for the people watching this. Let me tell you about Dorothy. Dorothy was 71 years old, took a short morning walk most days, and felt she was following her doctor's advice reasonably well. Her annual labs were generally acceptable. But Dorothy was exhausted by midday almost every single day. Her joints ached, despite unremarkable imaging, and she'd been told her C-reactive protein, her inflammation marker, was mildly elevated, likely just aging. When a family member encouraged her to track her movement for 1 week, what she found was eye-opening. Between her morning reading session, watching the news over breakfast, sitting at the computer for emails, and relaxing in her chair through the evenings, Dorothy was spending over 9 hours a day completely still. Her 20-minute morning walk was surrounded by hours of inactivity on both sides. Before I tell you exactly what Dorothy did and what you should do too, you need to understand why the sitting itself is so damaging, because most people completely miss the mechanism. Prolonged sitting doesn't simply mean less movement. It triggers a specific biological chain reaction that drives inflammation directly at the cellular level. When your large muscle groups, particularly in your legs and hips, are inactive for more than 30 consecutive minutes, your body substantially reduces an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase. This enzyme is critical to how your body processes blood fats and regulates blood sugar. When production drops, triglycerides rise, insulin sensitivity falls, and the body begins releasing inflammatory proteins, including interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein. Those elevated inflammatory markers have now been linked in multiple independent research lines to accelerated telomere shortening. The inflammation doesn't just make you feel stiff or tired, it is biochemically corrosive to the very structures that protect your chromosomes. A 2025 analysis published in Scientific Reports examined data from over 12,500 adults in the National NHANES database and found that people who sat 8 or more hours daily had a 58% higher risk of accelerated biological aging compared to those who sat fewer than 4 hours. And the relationship was dose-dependent, meaning the more sitting hours accumulated, the more pronounced the aging effect. But here's the part that genuinely changes the picture, and I want you to hear this clearly. A randomized controlled trial published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that older adults who reduced their daily sitting time showed measurable preservation of telomere length compared to those who didn't. And the original UC San Diego study found something equally important. Women who got at least 30 minutes of moderate daily activity did not show the telomere shortening associated with sitting, even when they sat quite a bit throughout the day. Physical activity appeared to provide real biological protection. What that tells us is that the solution isn't about becoming an athlete or overhauling your life. It's about two specific, achievable things: interrupting your sitting regularly and meeting a modest daily movement goal. Dorothy started setting a phone alarm every 28 minutes. Each time it rang, she stood up, walked to the kitchen for a glass of water, or simply stood at her counter for 2 minutes. 6 weeks in, her afternoon energy had improved noticeably. At her next appointment, her C-reactive protein had dropped from 3.1 milligrams per liter to 1.9. Her doctor, who had never once brought up her sitting habits, asked what she had changed. Here is the exact protocol based on current evidence. First, set a recurring alarm on your phone for every 25 to 30 minutes during your waking day. When it goes off, stand up and move for at least 2 full minutes. You do not need to walk laps around the house. Standing and doing 5 slow heel raises, walking to another room and back, or gently marching in place all reactivate the muscle groups that keep your inflammatory chemistry in check. If you have knee or hip concerns, simply standing and slowly shifting your weight from foot to foot counts. The goal is interruption, not intensity. Second, aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate activity daily, something that raises your heart rate mildly, like a brisk walk, a stationary bike, or a chair-based exercise routine. This does not need to be continuous. 3 10-minute walks across the day achieves the same benefit. The UC San Diego data strongly suggests this level of daily activity protects telomere length even in people who sit frequently. Third, if you are able, try 2 sessions of gentle resistance activity each week. Resistance bands, chair-based strength exercises, or light bodyweight movements. Research from Mayo Clinic published in the journal Cell Metabolism found that older adults who incorporated twice-weekly resistance activity showed measurable increases in functional mitochondria inside their cells. Mitochondria are your cell's power generators. More of them means better cellular energy, better repair, and slower biological aging overall. A few important safety notes. If you've recently had a surgery, cardiac procedure, or been advised to limit activity, please speak with your physician before making changes. Standing up from a seated position too quickly can temporarily lower blood pressure in some older adults, a condition called orthostatic hypotension. So always rise slowly, pause briefly, and confirm your balance before walking. If you use a cane or walker, keep it within reach during your micro breaks. Comment below and tell me, does your doctor ever ask during your appointments how much time you spend sitting during an average day? I suspect most of you will say no. And that gap in the conversation is exactly why this channel exists. Here's what all of this comes down to. Your cells are aging in direct response to how much unbroken stillness you accumulate each day. The University of California, San Diego study, the 2025 Scientific Reports N-Haynes analysis, and multiple clinical trials all converge on the same conclusion. Frequent interruptions to sitting, combined with a manageable daily movement goal, represent one of the most powerful and accessible strategies for slowing biological aging after 60. No prescription required, no gym membership, just a phone alarm and the decision to stand up. Set that first alarm right now, before this video even ends. 28 minutes. Stand up. 2 minutes. That is the starting point. And science says it genuinely matters at the cellular level. If this video added something useful to your day, please subscribe. Every week we bring you research-backed health strategies designed specifically for people over 60. Next week, we're examining a specific sleep pattern that's driving accelerated brain aging in millions of older adults, and the practical changes that can reverse it. You will not want to miss that one. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Take care of those cells. They are working hard for you.